Hi, Dee.
Hey, Adam.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Betsy, is that you, Town of Cohasset?
Who's there?
Oh, hi. I think Betsy, I spoke with earlier for the Town of Cohasset
Oh, gotcha.
that's setting up the Zoom for us.
Okay. Thanks for organizing, Adam.
Sure. I think if I can promote people to panelists, right?
Yeah, that's what just happened to me. I was promoted to panelist and then I
Oh,
clicked
okay.
on it and I got in.
Oh, here we go. Here's participants. Here we go. Right, Marianne is in.
Hey, Marianne.
And hi, Marissa.
Oh, you did it. That's what I wanted to say.
Oh, here's John. Okay. Look. Hi, Marissa.
Hey, how are you? Sorry, I'm on my husband's computer, so
I figured.
sorry you saw a picture of him.
Yeah. Hi, John. Oh, here's Connie. Hi, Connie.
Hi, Connie.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
I think John was trying to get in as well. How was your trip, Connie?
It was fantastic. Thank you.
Jealous.
Where'd you go?
I went to Italy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I hadn't been in a long time. And so I went for like 18 or 19 days.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you. Highly recommend
Where did you go?
it. I started in Rome for 5 nights, and then I went to Tuscany to a
I love it.
farm, one of their agricultural, deals, and to a yoga retreat there.
Oh my gosh, that sounds magical.
Yeah. And then finished off in Venice with for 4 nights.
Very cool.
Yeah, thank you. And we were looking at properties, because we represent, that's what our business is we represent privately owned properties in Europe, predominantly in France. And now we're looking to expand into Italy.
Very cool.
Had a few in Italy, but yeah, so it was work and pleasure both.
Fantastic.
Thank you. A lot of fun.
Sounds amazing, Connie.
Oh.
John, can you hear us now?
I can see his name on the screen, but nothing else.
Mhm.
Oh, here's Chris McIntyre as well. There's John. Hello, John. Hello, Chris.
Hey, guys.
Going on, man?
So is this everybody?
I
Looks like we at least we have a quorum anyway, right?
know Sarah can't make it.
Yeah.
The new woman that was gonna join, has she gone through all of her town stuff and everything? Does anyone know?
I don't know, but I do know that she's away because I'm dog sitting her dog right now.
All right.
Yeah. I had asked her a couple of weeks ago before I went away if she had done anything from the town hall yet, and which she said she hadn't. So I suggested that, she go in and start the process. And years ago, she was on the Board of Health for many, many years. So, she kind of knows the ropes, but I'm not exactly sure of the status right now.
Well, let me see. This is probably everybody, then, is my guess. So you guys want to go ahead and get started? All right, great. So maybe as a first, so what do we have to do? We have to call the meeting to order. Is that right? Is that my duty? Let's formally call the meeting to order. And then maybe we can start off by approving the meeting minutes from the March meeting that Marissa had sent around. Did everyone get a chance to look at those?
Mhm.
Anyone have any edits or comments?
I'm just reading them and they look great.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
staying.
I agree.
They're detailed.
Marissa, do you take notes and then write them up, or you record it and go back? What's your process?
I do both. It kind of depends on how I'm feeling today. I'm writing
Yeah. Okay.
and then we'll type because I wasn't sure if I was gonna present the climate, like pull it
Yeah.
up, or if you were going to. So I'm like, let me just do the computer. Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
I can do both. I can do either.
Marissa, just so you know that there's an app called Otter and it records and types it for you.
What? Okay,
Mhm.
I need to look into that.
It's very handy.
Yeah. Okay, Otter.
We don't want to be replaced by machines, though.
Right. I'm sure it makes lots of mistakes, but just
Mhm.
I think.
Okay, so do you want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Marianne makes a motion to approve the meeting minutes from March 8th.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Hey,
Unanimous. All right. So Marissa, you had talked about the climate summit plan, and is that something you're prepared to give an update on?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to kick us off then?
Sure. Yeah. So I sent around the climate summit plan like 2 weeks ago now. So I'm not sure if anyone had a chance to look it over, but I can give a little background and then we can dive in specifically to the open spaces and recreation piece of it. And I think the overarching committee, this is how I got involved with it, is the master plan committee. And I think the idea is they will kind of help shepherd it along, but then the individual committees will kind of be responsible for their chunks of it. So you guys may remember a while back, I think it was last fall now, that the town had solicited surveys from the various committees for what they were currently working on as it pertained to climate resiliency, and then what the committees thought were things that they should be working on. And so I think we were supposed to submit it as a committee, but I think we kind of individually submitted it. And so the outcome is the draft that I sent around. And that was a poll from, I think, about 22 various committees and organizations around Cohasset. And ultimately, through the surveys, the Brianna Bennett, who was employed at the town at the time, had taken everything and distilled it down to those 6 themes that are outlined at the beginning of the plan. And so those themes that ideally are the outcomes that ultimately will lead Cohasset to climate resiliency, having a climate resiliency plan. So I think, and maybe, I don't know if I can share my screen. It might be easier to actually pull it up.
Sure.
I think you might have to give me permission for that.
Let's see here.
Or Adam, if you want to pull it up, that would work too.
If I can give you permission, I'm more than happy to. Let's see. If you hover on the bottom of your screen, you don't see a share screen icon that you can click on.
Oh, no, sorry, I do. Okay. 1 sec. All right, so can everyone see that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes. Awesome.
So as a result of the survey, these were the 6 themes that were identified, and then who, where they came from and who likely would be responsible for it. So energy resiliency, that was a big one, mostly from the Alternative Energies Committee. Harbor resiliency, which, as we know, the Harbor Committee is already full steam ahead on that, and they're already running seminars and kind of doing their own thing. Land conservation, water conservation, waste reduction, and then regional opportunities and partnerships were the other themes that emerged. And so, and then the plan kind of goes into detail of, what each committee, the results of their survey, and kind of what they presented. So I wanted to specifically hone in on the Open Spaces and Recreation Committee page, to think about, as a committee, is it accurate? Does it represent what we want to achieve, or what our goals are as it pertains to climate resiliency? And, further, do we think that we would be specifically responsible? Would it be in partnership with other committees? And just my idea, and wanted to see what everyone thought about it. I think we should just have kind of an open forum discussion on what we think about the information that's here, and then how open spaces can ultimately help to drive climate resiliency in the town when we think about the open spaces plan and kind of our goals as a committee. Because my impression from reading through this, and again, I'm not sure if everyone had a chance, but the main outlined items that came from our committee were the Earth Day observance and the town cleanup, which is obviously important, but then also expansion of green space, education of invasive species, waste collection, plastic bags, and just general discussions on parks and green spaces. So I guess I'll leave this up if that's helpful, and I don't know, we'll just open it for discussion or questions.
When I read this, I thought, well, it's kind of what we're doing and kind of not. I wasn't sure. It seemed to focus a lot on the Arbor Day and the Earth Day, and I think we could do more.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've actually done all the rest of it. I don't recall us talking about plastic bags. Maybe we weighed in on that, but I guess I would like us to do more. I'd like us to encourage more playing fields and have a say in that. But I think we're not just an Earth Day event. And I don't think we talk much about invasive species. I just don't think we do that, but I didn't know where all this information came from, so I was started to wonder about that.
Are plastic bags already banned? I know you don't get them at the supermarket anymore or CVS.
Yes, I believe they're banned in Cohasset.
They are, but the CVS still has them for some reason. I don't know why.
But I think they're a different type of plastic. Right?
Yeah, they're like the thicker ones, which
Yeah,
arguably more.
biodegradable. Yeah.
I think there's a mention of the tree, that we're a member of the Tree City. I think trees are very important. They're they relate to climate resiliency. They're obviously important for carbon, sinking, and there's not a ton about that. We have the tree policy, and we're a tree city, and I've been trying to figure out what it means to be a tree city. And I had mentioned it early on a few meetings ago, but there's Mass DCR offers like some grants for doing a tree inventory for like the town, and there's different ways to do it. You can do it with software. It's different price points, more detailed ones, but I think that's, public trees, getting an inventory of public trees would be pretty valuable.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
If we have storms like we did back in October, it's good to get a baseline of what we have, at least, in the public along public streets or I can, I'm happy to kind of look into it some more and see what options there are. But
Yeah, that'd be
That would
great.
be great.
I think that would be great. I mean, we know that the town has planted probably 3 trees in the
Yeah,
last
maybe.
year.
Yeah. And I worry too about the sidewalk that's now, the Soie Street sidewalk. It's really hard to know exactly how many trees have come down. It seems like a lot when I drive by. And so I think to know what needs to be replaced, I think would be super valuable.
I talked to, well, I don't know if Chris wants to weigh in on that, but I did talk to conservation today about that more, and I did get feedback from them.
yeah, there's a ton of just, people that are, I think, really worse frightened by that storm that are cutting trees down, coming to us for permission to cut trees down within the buffer zones. And I think, a lot of it, I think, has to do with just fear, fear
Mhm.
stuff. And we require them to replace if they're in the buffer zone, but if they're not in the buffer zone, we have no say. But
So
there's-
can anyone cut down tree in their private property without recourse or?
yeah, I mean, if they're unless they're in the buffer zone, 100 feet or 50 feet from a delineated wetlands, doesn't come before us.
Yeah, I
But
don't,
in many
don't
cases,
think much
people cutting
enforcement
trees
there.
without permission, and then they come back, and that's unfortunate as well. They come before
Just-
conservation.
yeah, just as an anecdote, some of the businesses that cut trees down, I've seen them around town and part of the way they get business is self-referral. Like they'll just talk to someone in an adjacent house and say, hey, I noticed some trees that could come down. This happened to me a couple of years ago. The guy from Total Trees said, hey, I noticed a couple of trees out front that look like they're dying and I can cut them down for you, and offered me a discounted rate. And there definitely wasn't any compliance involved there. So I didn't let them cut the trees down, but
It's another good reason to have like a baseline inventory, because
Yeah.
in urban areas like Cambridge, I mean, they have complete moratoriums on cutting trees unless even if it's on private property, if it's bigger than, I think, 6 inches, unless an arborist weighs in, and if you're gonna cut it anyways, you have to pay, because they recognize the value of each tree, and they're just cutting them all down for development. So
Yeah.
not saying that that's where we would go, but having some data as where we stand would be good. So I'm happy to look into that a little bit and see how it works and with
that'd be
the
great, Chris.
I
grants.
totally support that. Yeah, I think that's great. Thank you, Chris.
So I think I had emailed the group about the Sawyer Street sidewalk. I had walked that route and took photos of all the stumps, and I counted 69 stumps that I estimated were at least 6 inches in diameter. I didn't measure each one, but that was my best guess. And I think Mary Ann, you had mentioned that we were in discussion about.
I did speak to them about it, and
Yeah.
there were additional definite trees that were removed beyond the scope of work. But that project is now on hold right now with DPW because of some of the trees that were removed, and that some of the neighbors' trees are failing as well that they weren't supposed to approach on. So they're
I
trying
saw
to
that.
take Chris, you can talk to it, but it's just being reassessed right now with the conservation agent on next steps. But definitely there were more trees. She didn't say 60, but it could have been a combination of small caliber, some scrap, and then some sizable trees. But with any project, it does tend to go over what you expect. But I think this one is, there's concerns about erosion.
Yeah, definitely. That was mentioned in the last Concom meeting. Just it didn't seem to add up, the scope, but that's why the agent was going out there to kind of verify, to make sure that
There's wetlands right there, right? I mean,
yeah, Yeah, so that's why they had to come.
So, yes, so she wants, I mean, the plan in that plan for that project is for, I think, I have to get the details on that, but there is a policy that for every tree removed, or maybe it's every other tree, a tree is replaced. And so that will be happening, but we need to probably stay on top of that policy and make sure that's completed.
Yeah, typically if it's in the buffer zone, it's 2 to 1, just in case one tree doesn't survive. So for every tree within, well, especially it might be 1 to 1 in the 100, but if they are approved to remove one in the 50, then typically it's 2 to 1. So two replacement trees.
Right. And the agent and the vice chair, well, maybe he's not vice chair anymore, both called the projects terrible. So, I mean, we should probably stick on top of this, and having a tree policy and having a tree count for the town would be good for us to do. And I think it would add some more girth to our description here of what we do beyond Earth Day and Arbor Day.
Yeah, and again, it's really about having the baseline, and then you can kind of check up on it, see what, if there are losses, and that can be useful in terms of if there's additional policies needed or something, or more stringent policies about tree replacement.
Does the DCR help fund any of the tree replacement?
Yeah, honestly, I just was doing kind of some scanning, and I did see that there's funding available from DCR. So
I know that's been an ongoing issue, is that the towns, most of their budget goes to tree removal or pruning of trees, and there's not anything left for replanting those trees once they're done.
yeah,
It'd be nice to maybe talk to the town about getting a bigger budget if, I don't know if that's possible.
budget, what the numbers look like, and what how tedious the grant might be.
Yeah.
But
I mean, maybe it's worth having a meeting before the select board and just talking to them about this and just getting their endorsement behind us. I think the select board now is more a willing player, supportive of open space, and I think we would have a lot of they would help us. Well, the new chair of the select board was formerly on conservation, so this type of project would be very of concern to him and of interest.
That's a great point.
well, I'll dig into it and send out some info, what I find for us first, and then take it from there.
Okay.
Great.
Marissa, maybe one point that we could edit on our responsibilities or initiatives is, the second one is education and information on invasive species, energy efficiency, and waste collection. What about like promotion or of energy efficiency, and even like mitigation of climate change, and something more actionable than just education information? I know we had a side discussion about the frustration we experienced of getting permitting for panels on your house. I'm actually going through that right now. I keep getting emails from Tesla saying we're just waiting on your permitting approval. So I don't know if there's someone in town that doesn't advocate for solar panels and trying to put the kibosh on it for whatever reason, but that might be something we could explore getting more involved with. Just thinking about more actionable items.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think some of these bullet points, and again, these all came out of the surveys that people submitted. I think, Marianne, you were wondering where the information came from, but it seems to me that it's a combination of like very lofty goals with like very tactical goals. And I think we should try to figure out how we want to reframe them so they're all kind of in the same, like a little more meaty. It's something that we can then come up with actionable goals against it. So I think the tree one is great. I think we can kind of do some wordsmithing to figure out how we want to draft that. And then, to your point about promoting climate change, I think that can be kind of a more ambiguous thing that we can then probably roll into plastic and the invasive, like all of these bullet points on here, energy efficiency, invasive species, and kind of roll those up into something like that. I don't know. Does that resonate with?
Yeah,
people?
Yeah, that
that's
sounds
for me,
great.
absolutely.
For the Earth Day promotion, I did the social media for open space, and it really, people responded and wrote back, and they were interested in the information that we were providing. So maybe if we keep that up and use that as another forum for education, that might be helpful as well.
Yeah.
Do we have a Facebook or Instagram page, or could we get one? Are we permitted to do that?
We do have one right now,
Oh, we do, okay.
and it's titled it says it's run by the Open Space Recreation Committee. And
I don't know if any of you, I mean, Marianne, you know Lisi Good, obviously. I don't know if anyone else knows Lisi Good, but she runs Wild Cohasset, which is I don't know if it's a nonprofit, like formally, but she does all sorts of work around Massachusetts pulling invasive garlic mustard and other invasive species. We've helped out a couple times with my kids, and I'm sure we could maybe, if we get a Facebook page, we could tag her, have her, like some of her posts posted there, or maybe even try to get her to run an event that we could, tag along with and try to get more people in town motivated to pull some invasive species and understand which ones are the ones to focus on.
Sure.
Was she the one at the booth at the table next to us?
Yes.
Yeah, she was did a lot of education work.
She's so good. She's so
Really passionate.
motivating. Yeah.
And then you were talking about, Adam, was it solar panels? I didn't hear
Yes.
you very well. So is that something we could tie with the that other there's another committee, and we could work with them on that? Is it alternative energy?
Yes,
So perhaps we can work with them.
that's a great idea. Yeah, they were at Earth Day as well, and I know a couple of folks on that committee. I can reach out to.
But if we could work with them about the importance of conservation issues, perhaps that would be helpful.
Great. Anything else on this agenda item that people want to discuss, or do you want to move on? Thanks, Marissa. That was great. Definitely more work to do there. So maybe I'll just give a couple of updates for the group on some items. So you mentioned Arbor Day. I did confirm that the DPW Tree and Park staff that they planted a sugar maple along North Main Street near the entrance of Wheelwright Park. I haven't gone over to take a look at it yet, but that's something I plan to do, and maybe others can check it out as well. It's one more tree, so that's great.
That's great.
And they also informed us that a private donation of $500 was made to the town tree bank, and DPW plans to plant a tree in the near term, and I've asked them to update me on the species and location, so I'll share that as soon as I hear back from them.
That's great.
Yeah. One other item. So Peter had reached out to the Planning and Zoning Board about a new lot going in at 18 Dolan Lane. He had, it's a new construction. They've done a lot of clearing, potentially some ledge removal and trees going down. So he had put me in touch with John Hallen, Director of Planning, Permits and Inspections, and he did assure me that they've made several site visits and all the work is in compliance with the permits that have been issued. So I guess we just accept that at face value. I'm not sure if we can do much more than that, but I just figured I'd update everyone on that since Peter had expressed some concern. I mean, it is part of our responsibility as a group to, kind of police these things and ensure compliance. Like we all kind of always supposed to be on the lookout for these types of things.
That's the one that abuts Wheelwright, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you have any concerns about projects, like they don't, some of them have stormwater permits, not necessarily adjacent to wetlands, but that one does ring a bell. So if there are any concerns about projects that you see, I can bring it up to the agent if it's something that it came above us and she goes and verifies that they're following the plans that were approved, so.
Yeah, I did drive by and took a photo of they have a big sign with a stormwater permit. It looks like SWP. Is that stormwater permit?
Yeah.
Photo.
18 Dolan Lane came before conservation like 3 years ago, and it was long discussed because we had to blast through to make a really long driveway in through there, and then they cut through the wetlands, and there's a road underneath Dolan Lane with a pipe underneath it, and there was a lot of discussion if they should redirect the pipe or where was the wetlands exactly in the vernal pools. So it was well discussed. I think it's probably falling back into Chris's area again because it's under construction. It's important just to see if it's falling back. But it was decided that we were working around the wetlands and that the pipe could stay where it was. So that's where it is. But it does about wheelwright, and it does look massive, but it was discussed a lot.
Okay.
To Charlotte.
I may be wrong, but I've seen that. In fact, after my walk today, we drove by to 18 Golden Lane as well. It seems to me that might have originally been part of Louise Smullen's property, the old house that has since been rebuilt just up above it at the end of the. And because I know it was a lot of acreage when that house sold, and then a new house was built, and now this house is appearing. I have a feeling maybe it was, I don't know if it was the same builder or not, but I believe it was all one property that then got perhaps, separated and sold.
It is underneath that house. It's a tight lot with a pork chop. It was a hard property to review because there was a lot of discussion on it.
I'm sorry, am I the only one here like electronic buzz?
Yeah,
background?
I hear buzz for sure.
Yeah.
I hear it. Yes.
No,
Okay.
it just stopped.
Stopped.
Like
What?
that.
There it
No,
goes.
started again.
I don't know.
Weird.
Yeah, Adam, I think it's your headphones. You try messing with the plug. So when you talked, it was worse, but. Yeah, it's better.
Yeah.
All right, I just muted my line and then it seemed to stop. So I'll mute when I'm not talking. All right, so just a couple more items before I turn it over to the various liaisons. Earth Day, I think it was a pretty good success. I think Peter had sent around the number of trash bags that got collected. I didn't save. I tried to sift through my emails and see, did anyone save that number or know how it compares to prior years?
I didn't see anything. I know we had about 250 the year before, and he was a bit disappointed by turnout from being there, but it was at the end of a school vacation week, I think. I thought we got decent response. I was happy with it. There's a lot of schools that participated and people, I thought, but I don't know what his numbers were.
How about Ecofest? Did anyone attend that? I wasn't around for that one.
I went to that. It was amazing.
Oh, good.
Marissa and Sarah.
Yeah, I helped organize it with Sarah. I think we had about 1,000 people and to come. We know that Untold went through several trips of beer, they thought that they were just going to need one. And so they had to go back 4 more times. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good success. I think, you know, initially a couple years ago, I think we had originally had the idea of Ecofest for the open spaces and rec committee. And so I think like, as we think about future years and trying to attract more people to the town cleanup or whatever we decide we want to do as a committee for Earth Day, I think one thing that we learned from Ecofest is getting families there. So we had, you know, the art contest, we had other games and things for kids to do. And so I think people are looking for an excuse to come out for springtime and want to be a part of something. And so if we can maybe think about next year a little bit ahead of when we typically plan and how we might maybe want to do other events or activities to try to get more people involved and interested outside of the town cleanup, which is obviously super important and we should continue to do it. But as we think about, you know, to your point, Adam, about trying to promote other things that fall under the umbrella of climate change, I think that could be a good way that we go about it. And that's just, you know, a thought that I have, but curious what others kind of think about that.
Maybe we just need to serve beer.
Yeah. Always helps. And whiskey. There was whiskey there too.
Yeah, that gets the adults there.
Yeah.
I happened to see Peter today. I just crossed him on our walk, and he told me that he sold 4 T-shirts at the event. So, but I mean, I wasn't able to attend, but the feedback I got was fantastic. It sounded like it was amazing.
Yeah, it was great. It was, when Marissa said, I feel like it ticked a bunch of boxes. You know, it was great for adults. It was great for kids. There were dogs there. I feel like it was such a fun family event, and it really promoted so many different, you know, small businesses I didn't even know about. You know, there's like a hair salon that has, you know, like low sulfate shampoos, or, you know, they recycle all their, you know, the tinfoil. You know, I feel like there's so many great businesses that you didn't even realize that you could support and help promote climate resiliency. I think it was great.
Yeah.
I'd love to
Great.
expand what we do now to maybe do something bigger.
Yeah, I also wonder too, just on the lines of the town cleanup, I know we talked a little bit about this before of, you know, doing it on school vacation week. And I think we wanted to do it a week later to try to get families.
Yeah.
But I also wonder, you know, could we get the schools involved with the town cleanup and have that be like an activity that they do as well? I know many other schools do that outside of Cohasset, as just like, we're going to celebrate Earth Day. Here's what we're going to do as a school community. And maybe that can be another avenue that we can also go down to try to promote picking up litter for Earth Day.
I'm sure we can find a way to team up with like the PSO or even the CEF to make it a fundraising thing for the schools as well. And I feel like there's a way to tap into a lot of resources here in town.
Yeah.
So are you suggesting that your event gets combined with Earth Day in Cohasset then?
It's possible, sure. I mean, I feel like we definitely want to do something again next year. And I think Sarah is, even though she's leaving, I think she's committed to doing it under just one bag because it gives flexibility in terms of it not necessarily being a town sponsored event. But with that being said, I think, you know, if the committee feels really bullish on wanting to do something big like that, then, you know, I don't think it would make sense to have 2 festivals. So I think we should figure out a way of combining forces.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you've already got 1,000
no
people.
one knew what, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just felt like no one knew what open space and recreation did. I mean, when the event happened for Earth Day, I mean, they knew that we were the cleanup crew, I guess, but I thought there should be more education to what we do. And I don't know if the bags, I mean, we gave away bags to everybody, but I wish there was a way that we could have funded. I guess they're privately funded. That's how it was funded. But is there a way that we can make could those funds go into like the tree bank, like instead of a $500, like how can we get the town more involved in seeing the results of what we do? And that's what I was kind of concerned, and that's what I kind of saw throughout the program.
I think that's a great idea. I feel like the bags are, I mean, I think they do cost a lot for what they are. And I feel like funds could be better spent on something that goes back to support the town in a positive way.
Because I think we do have many bags left. And so I posted on the Facebook page that we have some available for $5. Now, no,
Does anyone else?
to that, but I mean, how can we generate? I mean, we have all these bags now, but what can we do with them? What good activity can we? Maybe we can say it's for the tree bank, or that we're trying to put a tree in the park, or just I think we need to educate the town more on what we do, because I don't think anyone really knows. At least in that space. Like, you know, a lot of people if you don't volunteer in town and you're not on these master plan committees, you have no idea what anyone does in this town.
Yeah, true.
What can we do small that will just create awareness about what we do?
I mean, I feel like a social media page is a great way to get the message out there, especially if we can tap into, you know, Cohasset 143. I feel like a lot of people are constantly checking that, and I don't know, maybe a monthly post, or we could promote the bags there and say that they're going to fund the money to the tree bank, or say we're looking for donations for the tree bank. To Marissa's point, I think getting the schools involved is a great way. We can maybe try to partner up for Earth Day with the schools next year and try to get some sort of parent sponsorship or just townwide sponsorship. Like there's a lot of things we can tap. There's a lot of resources here if we tap into it properly, I think. Yeah,
and I think if we start earlier, then I think we usually start in March, maybe, or late February. I think if we put some more planning to it, I think we can make it a much better program.
Yeah, agree.
Just a few
thoughts. If I could just make one little comment about the trees. Our house, as my husband said, feels naked right now because we had I guess maybe 4 trees altogether. One on our side lot fell down that had not been anticipated to be any kind of a problem, but in the fall it fell on our neighbor's property, on her brand new shed she just built.
Oh no.
And then we had another, we live at South Main Street, right opposite St. Anthony's parking lot. And we had a birch tree that had been leaning over the street for a long time. And it was scheduled to be taken down a few weeks after it fell down over our fence over the street. And then we had 2 other big ones that we were told, one of them 10 years ago by Malti, we should take down. And we poo-pooed them and we waited. But finally this year we did take it down. And then we took down another one. So it's really sad. But then I was just mentioning to my husband today, as you drive around town, you see a lot of the green space between the road and the sidewalk, you know, on up and down Main Street, where there are trees planted in that area. And I believe that area belongs to the town, correct? If it's between the road and the town sidewalk, I'm sure that belongs to the town. I mean, we mow it and, you know.
Well, it depends on different areas on the street, but usually the town owns between 5 and 15 feet, but it does change in various streets. So it may, but it's dependent.
Yeah, because we were just talking, we definitely want to replace 2 of our big trees that we had to take down. And we basically took it down for fear of it, both of them falling over South Main Street and, you know, in these hurricanes that they're talking about and everything now. But yeah, well, interesting, because we were just toying with the idea of maybe, asking the town, maybe the town would plant some trees in that grassy area between the road and the sidewalk.
I think you could do that. You could call
Mhm.
Brian Joyce and ask him.
Okay.
Or I know people do call him to ask permission to take down trees
Mm,
in that perimeter as well.
right,
And
right.
probably the town would, I don't know if they would care if you planted it anyway. They might appreciate you just taking the initiative. But if you wanted to save money, I suppose you could ask.
Right. And however, next to the street like that, they're also subject to a lot of salt, road salt and everything. So anyway, it's interesting, this whole discussion about trees. And it's shocking. Adam, did you really say that it was 69 trees that were cut down on Sawyer Street alone?
Yeah. Yeah, I went up, I walked up and counted all the stumps, and took photos of all the stumps as well.
And
Documented.
is that from Ripley Road to 3A? Or is that 3?
No, from Fair Oaks to 3A.
Fair Oaks?
Just from Fair Oaks to 3A. Yeah, it's only probably not even a quarter mile.
Oh my gosh. On both sides of the street?
Just one side, just the left side as you're walking away from 3A down towards Fair Oaks.
So if you're heading towards 3A, would it be your left or your right?
On your right, if you're heading towards 3A.
On
from
your
Fair Oaks,
right.
On the right, that's where the sidewalk's going, yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. Wow.
So the project is because of, oh my gosh, what's the name of the condos? Or it was
Like
leftover money.
Chittenden across the street?
It was started because, Marissa, what did you call it?
The Avalon.
Avalon had
Oh.
leftover cash essentially. And so the
Okay.
town discovered this leftover cash, a lot of cash. And so they used it to apply to the sidewalks.
I
I
see.
don't know how often people will be going down that sidewalk, like who will be hiking up and down.
Why wouldn't
Mhm.
it be towards the school?
I think it would be
Mhm.
better applied. My opinion would have been better to apply a sidewalk from North Main Street to the MBTA station, because I think that's access to that. However, the
Right.
long-term plan is to supposedly build a sidewalk. The master plan is to build a sidewalk from Sawyer Street down 3A to the MBTA station, and that's their plan.
Oh, because the state funds that, right? Because 3A is state, so it's
Yeah,
federal.
I'm not really sure, but they're
Yeah.
saying that the MBTA, the way the North Main Street is, it would go into wetlands. But I think, honestly, the town could commandeer some of that land
Right.
that's not on the wetland side, but
Yeah.
It was my understanding with the Avalon Fund that it was very specific to where the sidewalk had to be built.
oh,
And the intent was that it was to connect Avalon to the town,
Oh, gotcha.
which is why I think the town was pigeonholed into doing it in that location, even though that may not have been the location preference. Otherwise, the money would just sit there
Okay.
unused. And yeah, so the other project, the 3A project, is state run, and I think it's like 2024, 2025. I want to say, like, I think they're just beginning to do the traffic studies, but the goal from that project is to create a bike lane down 3A to the whatever that shopping center is, there where the train station is, and then that will give the town access to the train station that way.
I hope they put traffic lights on 3A, because I think that's more needed for safety.
Yeah, so I think my understanding is that the traffic study will look at those intersections, accidents, things around, time studies to figure out if they need lights at like Soye and King Street specifically. Because I feel like I close my eyes every time I have to cross there.
I can't imagine being on a bike there. That would be scary. Like,
Yeah, interesting. Mm.
Yeah, it's not easy to get to that to that MBTA station if you're a pedestrian right now. So
Right. Particularly dangerous on North Main Street, it would seem like.
Yeah. For sure. So maybe to the committee liaisons want to give updates. Dee, I know you attended the Harbor Planning Committee meeting a
Yeah, the
couple weeks
Harbor
ago.
Committee, yeah, I can talk about that. That was May 10th. It's basically a project where Atlantica and Mill River will become the Cohasset Wharf project. It'll be 46 bordered, 82 border, which is where the lobster pound is now. The main plan is to decrease the size of Atlantica. They're kind of going to reimagine it into sort of multiple buildings that are sort of attached. It's going to go down from 15,000 square feet to 9,000 square feet. With open access to the water and multiple points of entry, a harbor walk, and public restrooms. They'll include fine dining, a coffee shop, ice cream parlor, and the lobster pound. And the leases on most of these are actually in the works right now. Parking may be tricky. They're going to decrease parking. It's currently 52. They're going to decrease it to 34. And that was one of the concerns brought up sort of in the discussion after the fact, is that with all these different venues, is there going to be enough parking? And they had talked about doing, timing, the fine dining would be open at different times than say that the coffee shop, and that might help alleviate some of that. But I don't know, I think 34 spots might be tricky with all that. And then someone else mentioned noise issues could be a concern. So I think they're kind of ironing some of those things out with the town. The permitting is filed. They have done 2 meetings with the zoning board, Concom, and overall there's general good board support, they said. In addition, there's a possible inn that they're going to put in over at the Lobster Pound, which will have 15 rooms and 15 parking spots. So those are sort of what the big plan is for that area. In addition, should I keep going, or should we want to discuss any of that? I'll go through the whole thing, and then if there's anything you guys want to talk about. Parker Ave boat ramp, that contract is signed, and that's going to start November 1st. So they'll have a new boat launch there. The state is funding a lot of that. And then they're trying to get a grant for Government Island to have conveyor lifts and docks for the commercial fishermen, which will be submitted in June. The engineering is funded, but they still need the construction to be funded. There's a meeting for that in 2023 with potential 2024 construction. And then the last thing is a Cohasset Harbor governance. They're going through the shellfish bylaw. They're reviewing that right now, but nothing's changed as of yet. It's pretty much what I discussed. Anyone have any thoughts or?
Do we have to have any opinion on, you said there's a hotel being built or a 15?
That one hasn't been, that's just being discussed right now. I don't think they've done any permitting for that or gone before any boards. I think that's the secondary tier once they kind of reimagine Atlantica.
So should we just encourage them to have more open space around there, or like walking paths, or just to keep it open so that people can enjoy the harbor?
I think the plan is to include like a harbor walk between all of it and have everything with open access to the water on the front. So I think that really is in their plan. If, obviously we want to keep on top of that to make sure that actually comes to fruition. But they did mention throughout the whole meeting that the harbor walk and the captain's walk is going to be part of this.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I have a question. So is that owned by Mr. Sullivan as a?
Yes. So Sullivan owns, I wrote it down here. Sullivan owns part of it, and then someone else owns. So the old salt house is owned by Cohasset Hospitality, and then everything else is owned by Tom Sullivan. So I don't know what the plan is if Old Salt House, how that's gonna, I think they're gonna reimagine the entire thing and then that will cease to exist, it sounds like, but
Mm. Hmm. Oh,
I heard that Jody Adams may be opening a restaurant down there, so that might be.
oh my
good for us.
goodness.
Well, there was gonna be a fine dining establishment. Is she a fine dining?
Mm.
Yeah,
That
okay,
might be a bonus.
that'd be great. Better food would be nice.
Mhm.
I don't know if this might be an appropriate minute to just mention briefly, or maybe I thought I was going to save it to the end, but I did have a conversation with Adam Donovan, who Peter had recommended as the liaison person of Lobsterman vis-a-vis parking, the parking issue down there.
Yeah,
So I only talked with him for a few minutes and he was busy with his kids. And so I need to have a longer conversation. But basically, he said he doesn't want to touch that with a 10. I guess it's gotten kind of contentious. But, he does want to talk about it more.
well, I've seen all kinds of posts on Cohasset 143 on that.
Is there?
Yeah, people saying, I used to park here when I was a teenager and now it's, we can't get access. We can't, you can't park there and, eat your lunch and enjoy the beauty of Cohasset. It's all gated off with a chain link fence.
Oh, yeah. And I know Adam, grew up in Cohasset. It was a family, I think, of five or six kids. Great family. He was one of my daughter's ages. So he's probably about 41 now. And, college educated, great guy, and decided, he liked to do carpentry and lobster better than a desk job. So, but he's a very thoughtful, smart guy.
Yeah.
So he was saying that one of the problems is that he lives in Scituate now, in North Scituate, so that a lot of the lobstermen or the fishermen aren't Cohasset residents.
Oh yeah.
So they are therefore precluded, from being on any of these boards or committees.
Oh, interesting.
A point of frustration.
Mhm.
I'm just looking here what else he might have said. Then he alluded to that lot that's over opposite where Kimball's by the Sea used to be, that empty lot that's at the beginning, right by Margin Street there.
Yep.
Mhm.
Empty lot. And I guess discussion is about possible parking there. And he also alluded to that island that triangular piece of property that's currently an island opposite where Kimball's used to be, or Cohasset by the Sea used to be. And but he definitely wants to talk more. He wants to talk with us more.
Tony, is that the island? Is that part of the Elm Street Working Group that you were
Yes.
on to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I should have had more information about that, and I apologize.
No,
But,
it's okay. I mean,
will
yeah,
be-
as much.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, as much as I hate turning green space into parking, that plot of land is not used by anyone for any purpose.
Yeah.
Just, and it's nice to have a green space. I mean, I think about the little plot next to Black Rock Beach that is just it's a green space. There's grass there, but you only have room for 7 parking spots there, and no one gets to actually use the beach because it's constantly full. And it seems like another place where you could potentially have a parking lot. So when parking is such a problem as it is, and there's such little availability, it makes sense to turn potential lots into a parking space, especially if they're not being used for any purpose.
Yeah, I think that's, and I am friendly with Tim Davis from the Harbor, the Elm Street. And I asked the question, how are there crossover members on the Elm Street Working Group and the Harbor Committee? Tim Davis, is he on both of those committees?
He's definitely on the Harbor Committee. I don't know about the Elm Street.
Okay, he definitely, I believe, is chairing the Elm Street Committee.
Okay.
Crossover there, which is just, yeah. Okay, so I will, I need to get updated with the Elm Street, what do they call it? Elm Street Working Group. And because a big part of that does pertain to that little triangular piece of land there,
Mhm.
and whether they're going to advise that that land be pushed back, the island be pushed back and adjoined to the new development, and then the traffic would be reconfigured differently than it exists now. I'll try and get an update on that soon and get back to the committee.
I think the plan is to push that into that new development and to reroute that whole street so that it comes to more of a full stop. I think that's what it is, but it would be great to find out more about that.
Right. For example, I know that Sir, a very active citizen in Cohasset has opposed that and has come forward with other alternative plans that he thinks would be better. And he's the gentleman that got actively involved in the bridge over Cunningham Bridge.
Yes.
And if you look and see what a great bridge it looks, what it is, I mean, he really activated smartly on behalf of Cohasset. So I know he's got respect within the community.
Is that Ralph?
Yes, Ralph
Oh, yeah.
Ralph Dorman, sir.
Excellent.
He's in
Yeah.
the Bassings Beach thing too, right?
He's what?
He's head of the Bassings, he's trying to protect Bassings Beach from,
I believe him and Tim Davis together are doing that. Yes.
He's a former selectman, so I think that's why a lot of people listen to him as well. He
Yeah.
just has a lot to say, but he helped redesign that bridge a lot. Like it could
Yes.
have been terrible.
I know that bridge is a great tribute to him, but not that it really matters, my opinion, but the island, when I first heard about the island maybe being pushed over, basically being a big front yard to the development, my thought was, wow, that seems like a big giveaway for the town. But I must say, since then, I've had other thoughts, and so anyway, but I think it's important. However it goes, it's important how that gets decided.
I agree, because there's not much green space back there. I mean, it was pushed that there is some walk behind those condos, but there isn't much. I mean, there's some platforms and lawn, but that was a big fight to retain that. I think, and I don't know where that stands anymore, because I think I don't know. That would be of interest.
Yeah.
Adam, my thoughts were on Black Rock Beaches. I think we can add some more spaces to that, but it's also in a limited format. Like right now, I think you can get in 7 spaces. Maybe it could go to 10, 12, maybe, but I don't think as many as the town really wanted, because there is wetlands in there, and it's just a very difficult traffic corner, and prohibited for people walking and biking, and very narrow with all the ledge in there. So I think it would be a great idea, but I think it has to be carefully developed.
Yeah, I wasn't so much thinking of going in towards the wetlands as I was thinking that little patch of grass there that's, in between Jerusalem and what? I'm not sure that is street there.
Atlantic from Hall, that was.
Yeah. Because there's some rocks there that kind of block you from otherwise parking on the grass, and it seems like they could add a few spaces there.
Yeah, if it could be redesigned, that whole intersection, I think it could be worthy of it. But it is really tight for anybody even walking, I guess, from Hull, from that side of the North Jerusalem toward Black Rock Beach. It's just unacceptable. Like it's just it's a traffic nightmare, the whole intersection. So, but I do think people would use that beach more, and it would be good to do something with that, but just very carefully.
I feel like there might be a lot of opposition to that too. I think we talked about it a while back, and I feel like a lot of people that live over there strongly oppose additional parking.
Yes.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
And Connie, we were saying about the lobstermen. So they want access to that parking lot right now to use, and it's just closed right off right now. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, which parking lot are you referring to?
Where Kimball's is and the Atlantica?
Where the old Atlantica restaurant is?
Yes.
You know, he didn't say, he didn't say that per se. As soon as I broached the topic, he went, whoa, I'm not being near that with a 20-foot pole.
Oh, okay. I'm
He
sorry.
went
I missed
on
that.
to share a lot. So I think it's just my sense from him, and I will certainly talk with him more. In fact, he wanted me to call him back this evening before our meeting, but that didn't happen. But I think it's just a general frustration that there isn't more parking for the fishermen, the lobstermen. Even probably even before that was closed off, right? Because sometimes they've had valet parking there, and you could only park there if you were dining there, I believe, at times. So
Oh, I think that is a problem. I think people should have access to water, and that project is just all barred off from everyone, or fenced off rather.
Yeah, and I think they're going to decrease the parking spaces there. That's the plan.
I don't know if there's even a way right now before the project begins to open up some of that parking lot, at least give a corner of it to the public so that they can use it. And now that we enter into summertime, I don't know who we speak to. I guess it's Sullivan. Would it be? I'm not quite sure.
He owns it.
yeah.
I don't know.
What about the parking up at the Light Keepers? Is that generally available during the weekday if it's not being used for an event?
I don't know. I know Parker Ave is town permit. You have to be, you have to have all facilities sticker to park on Parker. I don't know about the Light Keepers.
Yeah.
It does have a substantial parking lot behind it, which is hidden from everybody. But I don't know the regulations on that.
I'll look into that.
It's another thing we need to find out.
I don't think I have any other agenda items. Does anyone else have anything they want to bring up?
No, the CPC met a lot during this February. Well, we met a lot during the winter, and everything went before town. We discussed the library roof, the Parker Ave boat ramp, the affordable housing, got sliding doors, new roofs, and new windows. It was all passed at the town meeting. Supposedly we're having another meeting coming up soon, and I'm not sure what he's Russ Bonetti runs that meeting, and he's always collecting new proposals from people in town that are looking for funding. So I think he will just inform us if there are additional proposals coming in. We tend to do most of the work in January and February.
Miriam, was affordable housing specific to the MBTA legislation that was passed for those additional 750 units?
No, that was for Elm. There's a property on Elm Street that has affordable housing, and that housing unit was built, I want to say in the 1960s. I don't recall the data on that, but the roof and windows and sliding doors were failing. We didn't talk. I don't recall talking about the MBTA but I think Cohasset's is among several towns going before the state to object to that proposal by the state for affordable housing by the MBTA station. For us, it would be a problem as we're blocked in by a cemetery, wetlands, a golf course, and a large retail center, and then Wampatuck on the other side. So I think we struggle in this situation, what they were asking for.
Well, in addition, I think the schools couldn't handle that capacity of students if that were to happen. The schools are already at capacity now. There's talk
Right.
of rebuilding, but they don't know where to rebuild them because there's no other place.
Yeah.
And
I don't
maybe-
know who to talk to about that, like where this town is going with that. I guess the town manager may know if we're going before, or if we're part of a block of suburbs going before the state to object to that. I assume that. But I can find someone. I can ask someone about that.
I do know from master plan, the only information I have is that it's a little vague, but the town did draft a letter of concern to the state and submitted it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what happened after that. And that was just to bypass the 12/31/22 requirement. I think it was just to buy more time.
Okay. I mean, for us, it would take away open space, of course. It would take away, I mean, Wampatuck, I think. And then if we wanted to add sidewalk accessibility for MBTA, but it would just add, I think it's 10,000 more people to the community. And it would take all our space away.
I'll chain myself to a tree before they infringe upon Wampatuck.
But I'll ask a few people I know where that goes. Where is that?
Thank you. Does anyone else have any updates?
I can give a quick master plan update. I mean, we already went through most of it with the climate summit proposal, but we met on, gosh, April 4th. And the main thing that we talked about, aside from the climate plan, was the sidewalk projects. And Chief Quigley came to the meeting to kind of talk through some of the, we had specifically wanted to get traffic data from him and safety information in terms of, you know, where there might be a bigger need for sidewalks or bike safety, things like that. And he did end up sending over a report, which I can share with you if you all would think it's helpful. But his main opinion of it was just, it's very hard to kind of piece it all together to come out with any sort of information because it's so anecdotal in terms of the context of the accident and kind of what's happening. Was there alcohol involved and things like that? So it's just a lot to go through and really hard to figure out. I think we were hoping that there would be some kind of smoking guns in there. These are specific areas that we should really think about safety and sidewalks. But his main opinion was that a lot of the safety issues could be handled through better signage, and signage should be a priority for the town. And then separate to that, you know, any roads that feed into the schools should also be another top priority. So, and then someone had mentioned too, I guess the town is possibly now starting to enforce metered violations now. I didn't realize that the town was not doing that before. And so I think ultimately this sidewalk conversation tends to result in, okay, great, we want to build sidewalks, but where are we going to get the funding for it? We know that our typical capital funds that we tap into are changing some of their rules. We're not going to be able to get as much funding as we've gotten in the past. And so someone had suggested or proposed, if the town could start enforcing more about parking violations, could we then use some of that revenue to start funding sidewalk enhancements around town? So I'm happy to share the traffic data. I know sidewalks is also a really important part of the open spaces plan, and something that I think as a committee we should probably formulate a good point of view on. So I don't know. I mean, maybe that's something we should consider for the next meeting, of really trying to come up with a proposal for what we think would make sense in terms of sidewalk plans for the town. I know master plan is trying to come up with a plan, but are certainly looking for input from other committees. And so I think the traffic data we have, coupled with all the information that Katie went through a couple months ago with the committee, I think could probably be helpful for us to kind of piece together what we think we should be focusing on as a town.
I think that's a great idea. Why don't we contribute to that and weigh in on the sidewalks as well?
Yeah,
And be
agreed.
more of a participant in that.
Yeah. Okay, I'll share that, and then maybe Adam or Connie, we could put that on the next agenda as a topic of discussion.
That's good.
I'm trying to think of conservation updates I can give you folks. The only one that comes to mind really that's like a town related is the emergency pipe that they're installing at Treats Pond. There was a lot of do you know where Treats Pond is, everyone? It's off of Jerusalem or Atlantic, I guess. But it's the new pipe is gonna, instead of diverting towards the harbor, it's gonna go out towards the beach to help drain that pond, I guess. But yeah, so the state's involved, and anyways, we passed the emergent. They had a request for an emergency permission to start that project, which is why the pipes were in the sandy parking lot, and the stockpile of soil was there and everything.
Is that to keep the pond moving a bit more so it's not stagnant, and to get rid of all the gnats?
Exactly, yeah, to try to give it some control over the volume, and it's basically the Board of Health declared it like a health risk, and they had letters from the fire chief, the police chief, and Department of Public Works and everybody. So
Wow.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the pond, right? Like you said, right after Whitehead, correct? On
Yeah.
that side. So I've only been in town for about 35 years, but I remember for years that Chris probably knows from growing up in town. It was a skatable pond. Everybody ice skated there. The swans nested there, and then the Phragmites started to encroach, and now it's just seems like it's almost 100% Phragmites and no ability to drain.
yeah, so yeah, to drain into the harbor, and then
Mhm.
it just kept getting clogged up, or they couldn't maintain it that way. So
Mhm.
one other notable project that will probably catch everyone's eye is on Atlantic Ave, right over the bridge. If you're going towards Sandy Beach, they split that lot. If you know where that tennis court is, that's going to be a new residential that went through review. They were in for like several meetings, but there's going to be a new house there.
I think it's like a 10,000 square foot house, right?
It's going to be crazy. I mean, it's on such a slope. They're going to have to take out so much ledge and soil. It's the back of the house is basically going to be looking at a 16-foot wall of earth and rock. And then they wanted to do a bunch of cutting in the buffer zone, which we didn't want them to do. So they're going to convert the tennis court there into natural habitat, though. That was a compromise they made to get past. So
Did that isn't the bylaw on ledge, like you can't cut more than a foot down? Or maybe I'm not as clear with it anymore, but there's a new bylaw. Does that apply to that project, or were they before that project?
I think it was just before. I think it was
Um,
4, and I'm not quite
Yeah.
up to speed with the ledge thing.
Actually, there was one other item. I got an email from Peter about this. The state attorney general in March approved Article 6 of the bylaw that applies to ledge protection, and it's retroactive to September 29th, 2021.
Oh.
So I don't know. I haven't seen the document. Maybe you try to get a hold of it.
Mhm.
I just got an email saying that it was approved retroactively.
And I believe that I'm building that is a kid that grew up in Cohasset, right?
I don't know where he grew up, honestly.
Yeah, I think he grew up in
Andrew Flynn.
Cohasset. Yeah, he grew up in Cohasset, yeah.
Sadly, there's a lot of cases that come before town of people that once lived here and came back and just
Mm,
want stuff.
yep.
What's disgusting or upsetting to me is Windy Hill and how they've just
Oh, gosh.
down. But that was a split lot. So. But just that's why we need to stand up for properties and just maintain bylaws, and so that people are allowed to build whatever they want, but to a point, and you just can't completely scrape a lot.
I thought that was one big house on Windy Hill, and then they put another big one right in front of it. It's like, oh my,
Yeah, that has another sorry story to it.
yeah. That's what was great when they didn't have all this new septic stuff. I remember, that's what seemed to really sort of naturally curtail or limit the growth, because if land wouldn't perk, they wouldn't build on it. But once this new stuff started happening, it's a free for all. Yeah. Ay,
Anything else anyone wants to discuss?
Not on my end.
Or else we can call it a few minutes early. All right.
I'll move.
Well, thank you, everyone. That was a great meeting. We had minimal interrupting.
Very impressed with that. Nice change of pace.
All right, so actually one last thing is the next meeting, I think we talked about the meetings being on the second Tuesday of every month. Does that work for most people?
Actually,
So the next one would be June, and that would be just in about 3 weeks. So do we need to meet that soon, or can we postpone, like Peter had mentioned before he departed, we don't have to meet every single month if that frequency is not necessary. How do others feel about that?
I'm fine with
Probably-
until July.
It's probably good to meet in June before everything gets crazy with summer.
Yeah, June's probably an easier month to have a meeting than July. Maybe we can
Mhm.
think about skipping July or August. So, okay, well, we'll plan on having the next meeting in June, and Connie, I'll work with you to put together an agenda for that one.
Sounds great, Adam. Thank you.
All right, thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.
Thanks, Connie.
Thank you,
Have a good
guys.
night.
Night, guys.
Thanks. Good night. Good weekend.